Damn. When thinking about it, it feels like it honestly might be about time, but still, damn. Today we're talking about the Montreal Canadiens because it was just confirmed by D-man David Savard that this will be his last season in the National Hockey League. He will retire once the Montreal Canadiens get eliminated in the postseason. I can also add, Renaud Lavoie tweets out here that David Savard told the Habs front office about his intentions a few weeks ago. And there are some folks in the replies to this tweet, wow, so he has 4 more career games. Okay, Comet, we're not going to say that. I know I said the Canadiens are going to get eliminated in 5, but that was just me. If the Canadiens make a run, if they go past Washington, if they find themselves in the 2nd or the 3rd round, then David Savard might have a little bit more hockey to play ahead. But for right now, let's talk about David Savard, the man that he is, because at 34 years old, this will be the last season of his hockey playing career. $3.5 million a year signed on till the end of this season. Honestly, when thinking about the retirement context behind it, I'm glad the Canadiens didn't trade this guy away. I know there was a lot of conversation about that. Oh, the Habs need to maximize the value of their assets because they're 31st in the NHL and they've got all these guys whose contracts are going to expire. So sorry, Evans, sorry, Savard, you guys are on your way out of here. That was kind of a sentiment that a lot of us said throughout the course of the season, but as the Canadiens started to win and as they didn't end up trading Savard and they re-signed Jake Evans and all this other good stuff was happening with the organization, it was more like, okay, we can hold on to this guy. Sure, he's a veteran presence in the locker room. He's a good name. A lot of folks like David Savard as a teammate, as a guy, as a family man, and of course as a Quebec dude. So Savard had himself a pretty good run here with the Montreal Canadiens, coming over after being crowned Stanley Cup champion against the Canadiens in 2021. He's only played for 3 NHL teams, that David Savard. Lots of years with the Blue Jackets, wins a cup with the Bolts in 2021, and then he heads over to the Canadiens and plays reasonably okay hockey. He doesn't get the most points in the world, he doesn't get the most high-flying offensive profile out there on display, but what he does bring is stability. And with 15 points in 75 games played, the worst point production year that Savard has had with the Canadiens in the 4 seasons he has been in Montreal, you could kind of tell the writing was on the wall. Not to mention the fact that he was a little bit slower this year, and you can definitely tell from the way this guy plays the game, with the focus that he places on blocking shots and putting his body on the line in front of the goal. Obviously, with the playoffs coming now, yeah, he's probably going to have to get into a bunch of battles with Washington forwards in front of Montembeault and the crease there. It's not going to be easy, and for David Savard to have been doing this his whole career ever since 2010, pretty much, 2011, this is a guy who has gone through a lot of wear and tear. And now, at 34 years old, he is deciding that this will be the last time he suits up in his hockey playing career. All we got to do is just give the guy props. Stanley Cup champion, he won a bunch of medals in the QMJHL, and he was a very, very calming presence. So I think a lot of Canadiens folks will be satisfied with the career that David Savard had with Montreal. But this also does open the door for more guys to potentially fill in and take that spot. I know a lot of fans were kind of saying, oh, like, we re-signed David Savard because he's a Quebec guy and he likes being here. Others were saying, oh, just let him walk because there's no room for him anyway. But now it's like, all right, well, nobody gets him. He's retiring at the end of the season. Montreal's going to have a bunch of guys who can replace that spot in the lineup. From Logan Mailloux, I think, is the obvious one, but you also do have that same David Reinbacher who could be available too. Everybody was fantasizing about it, man. Hudson and Reinbacher. There also are some other guys still rotating around there. Carrier sticking around. Jaden Struble is here. We'll see whether or not any of these other guys find themselves a meaningful role on the team. But David Savard, I think, is one of the guys that we have to go out there and celebrate. Even just thinking about his days in Columbus. I mean, the guy was an absolute tank, a warrior for so many years. 14-15 is when he maxed out at 36 points in 82 games played, so he did have quite a productive season. 11 goals, too, out of David Savard. It's kind of weird thinking about David Savard being able to score 11 goals in a season, especially since this year he only had 1. But he spent a lot of time with the Blue Jackets. He was always in their playoff runs. And, of course, he was a part of the Blue Jackets' incredible storied run when they ended up sweeping the Tampa Bay Lightning in the first round after the Lightning just broke the record for most points or most wins in a season or whatever it was. Something like that. It was a long time ago. But Savard then found solace with Tampa since he did win the Cup with them in 2021. Coincidentally against the Montreal Canadiens. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic to see him switch ships from Tampa over to Montreal in that offseason, but he did want to come home. He did want to suit up for the Bleu, Blanc et Rouge, and he provided some pretty good times with that. I just kind of wonder now, too, okay, David Savard's retiring at the end of the year. Is that going to really push the Montreal Canadiens hockey team to being better than they could have been? We already made the video earlier this morning about how, hey, the team's getting a lot of rest here. That's a gift from Gary Bettman and the NHL playoff schedule makers, because they've been pretty banged up and they've been pretty overcharged the past little while here. They almost fumbled at the end, too. They couldn't clinch that playoff spot until the last game of the season, despite having multiple chances to do so. Montreal may be using this Savard story as extra intentions to go out there and play their behinds off. Although, if they already knew behind the scenes that he was going to retire, then maybe not. Maybe the players didn't know until now. Maybe, I don't know. If it was just management that knew, he's like, hey guys, I'm just gonna let you know I'm gonna retire at the end of the year. They're like, okay, we're not gonna trade you, don't worry. But if the players found out today, it's like, oh, okay, now we have to actually really make it worthwhile for David to make sure he has one last hoorah before the end of his hockey playing days. If the Canadiens somehow win a Stanley Cup, it honestly might cost David Savard an arm and a leg just with the net front battles he's going to have to sustain and endure. But despite that, he has been doing that his whole career. He has been a solid force. Say what you want about his foot speed, say what you want about him and the way he's able to move this year compared to previous years. It certainly was a little bit worse, but I think that just goes hand in hand with getting older and just the style of game that he plays. And it's probably why he's taken the retirement here at 34 years old, despite honestly being maybe somewhat capable of signing an NHL contract for next season. But either way, that's the verdict here. David Savard's final season. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.